Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA Detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. Lytes Out Podcast here. We have another great interview for you guys. I know you love the interviews. They're good. We have old school people. We have new guys. We have a little bit of everything. Right now, we're going old school once again. Branden Lee Hinkle, part of the Hammer House, one of the great guys. Fun to talk to. I had a lot of fun with this interview. What about you guys? Mike, Miguel, tell me what you guys thought about it.
I know Branden for a long time, so yeah, it definitely was good catching up to him. And he's the same guy as always, kind of fun, hard to get him to talk shit about somebody, so long ago, it's been long and stuff like that. We tried, but he's just kind of, being a father, he's got a 1-year-old at this point and stuff like that. So we caught a really upbeat version of Branden Lee Hinkle, which was pretty cool. He seems to be in a good spot in his life. And we went over some old times, man. Good times.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the interview is that, any interview we do, we always try to get something out of it that no one else knew about. Like one of those hidden gem stories that people might talk about that, they either don't believe or never heard. So I think in this interview was him and Kevin Randleman got into a fist fight before Mark Coleman's Hall of Fame introduction. And what he didn't really go into is that the hotel, they refused him entry. Both him and Randleman were not allowed in because of the way that they were acting outside towards each other. And, that was a good revelation. And, the thing about Hammer House is, in order to be there, you had to fight each other. Like, legit fight each other any moment, anytime. That was the type of hardness that team, put together. And, if I'm going to jail and I got to pick an MMA team, Hammer House is my number one. So I thought it was good.
I don't think anybody understands really what the Hammer House was about back in the day and how – not dysfunctional is the right word, but just how different they are from like camps nowadays. They are a throwback to old school, and I love every second of it. That is the epitome of what fighting was back in the 90s and early 2000s is a Hammer House. Like those guys, I could see them coming to the gym like, let's work out a little bit. They'd wrestle for half an hour, punch each other, like, let's just go drink or something. Just that is what the Hammer House was, and this guy really is the epitome of it. I love it.
Yeah, Hinkle went to college on a tennis scholarship, and also wrestled, at the time. But he won a D2 national title, and he's an awesome athlete. But still, it is a chore to go to Hammer House. They've had other awesome athletes that they ate for lunch and chewed up, and Hinkle is a lifelong member. So I think we got a hell of an interview here.
Absolutely.
Okay, welcome back to the Lytes Out Podcast. We do lots of different things with fights. We have different betting things going on. We also do interviews, and this is a good deep dive video. We got Branden Lee Hinkle. He's a guy who's been around for a long time. He's one of the guys from my era with the Hammer House. Branden, good to have you here, brother.
Hey, it's good to see you again, Chris. It's been a little while since I've seen you.
We're old, man. We're old.
Well, let's catch up really quick, Branden. I know you've been living in Brazil. You just had a kid. You're back in Ohio. Catch us on the latest running around before we get into the 90s.
So, we were, me and my wife reconnected. I got married. She's a Brazilian citizen. We moved down there. It was a nice little time in Sao Paulo. I was coaching some wrestling, and, then my son was born, and then this pandemic hit, and it's kind of nice to be, she got her residence visa here, and it's kind of nice to be out here in Ohio in the middle. We don't got anyone within a couple miles of us, so it's nice to be with a little space right now. But it was a nice little experience down in Brazil. My son's will be a year at the end of the month. His name's Lion Luke Pedamon Hinkle, and he's already like 99 percentile in the height and 90 percentile in the weight. So we're training him already.
That's a big boy. Is he got cauliflower ear yet?
What's that? No.
Nope.
I wasn't never a big fan of the cauliflower. I kept my headgear on when I was younger. I always did. I wasn't like the rest of them.
Do you speak Portuguese?
Más o menos.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Aprendendo.
That's good.
He's already doing better than me, man.
Yeah. Well, your first fight was in Brazil, actually, against Ebenezer Braga.
Yes.
So
And that was,
how long did you train before you took that fight?
But see, I was just doing another podcast with my buddies at Old School Gym, and people don't understand that I was wrestling. I was trying to train for the U.S. Nationals, and we weren't, there wasn't a lot of cross training going around there. Maybe it was just starting, and we were, I was just training for U.S. Nationals, and the call came in from Coleman, and we didn't change our training up. We just picked it up. We were pushing cars and wrestling like Hammer House style, So, but I went down there, and that was put me on the map. Ebenezer, you guys know the Old School guys. He was probably top 5 in the world then. And I think Miguel, you were at that fight, right?
I believe so, yeah. Now let me ask you though. How'd you meet Coleman though? How'd you meet Coleman? Let's go back.
How did you guys hook up?
So I wrestled at West Liberty. I won a national title. I was a 2-time national finalist, and I had some success in freestyle, and not coming from D1. Nowadays, everyone knows the D2 guys can compete with the D1 guys. It's the mid-'90s. It was kind of – so I wasn't really getting on. And Brian Edison, a buddy of mine that wrestled, was a 2-time national finalist at West Liberty State. Now it's West Liberty University. Knew Coleman. And Coleman was there, and Randleman and Rex Holman and Mitch Clark. And, he put me in touch with Coleman and though the thinking was not fighting. The fighting was not – it was to train for the U.S. Open, for U.S. Nationals. And then, Miguel knows me and Coleman. I got down there, and in 2 days, me, him, and Randleman were thick as thieves. Literally and figuratively.
Well, the thing is Coleman and Randleman being the leaders of Hammer House, they put a lot of pressure on their guys to represent the school and stuff. And it isn't a lot of guys that have been with them the whole time. You have.
But Coleman was the leader. Was the leader. Everyone else was the soldiers. He was the general.
So now the way that old stuff worked was like Battarelli, the promoter at IVC, he wanted Coleman. Everybody wanted Coleman to fight, but the money wasn't going to be for a champion. It wasn't right. So Coleman would call you.
It was supposed to be an 8-man tournament. It was supposed to be an 8-man tournament. Coleman was going to come and bring me, and and they were bringing. I think they mostly Brazilian guys. Maybe I don't know how they did it. There were 1 or 2 international guys in. And what happened is they decided to they saw videos of me, and they saw Coleman, and I did well U.S. Nationals here, and they decided to scratch the tournament and make it 3 super fights to save money, and and it was me and Ebenezer, and it was Pele and Chuck and Vanderlei and Mike Van Arsdale, and that was the whole card, and it was a 2-hour card, and it was crazy, dude. That was crazy back then. But I was young. I didn't give a shit. I was ready to roll, dude.
Yeah, were you intimidated at all walking into that? I mean, your first fight is overseas against a top 5 guy in the world.
Dude, can you believe this? I was so – listen to that. I'll tell you a quick story. So I'm a wrestler. So the weight – the contract comes in at 200 pounds. So I'm 250, I'm 220, 225 going over there, dude. I'm 220 at least. And so I wake up, and so we go out to this. Battarelli takes us this nice. I think you were there, Miguel. I swear to God you were there. And he takes us nice Chinese restaurants when the table rotates. And I was young. This first time being overseas, and I was sampling everything. Boom, boom. No one's saying it. Everyone has a nice time. And here comes the donuts at the end of the night, and I go, 1, 2, 3, and Coleman goes, "Hey man," and I put one back. He goes, "It's too late now." So I wake up, and I got the next day, and I got a lot of weight to cut. Who knows, but not 14, 15 pounds. And so I'm there, and now they see me cutting weight. They don't understand. Now they understand. Back then, the Brazilians, they weren't cutting weight like that. You know that, Miguel. Yep. The wrestlers and the boxers bought the weight cutting this. They didn't, so they're all worried about me making weight, and I was so unintimidated. Like, it was a big deal there. They had TV, sport TV was there, and they're sitting there, and I'm talking through a translator. I spoke no Portuguese at the time. I was talking through a translator, and finally I'm getting the gist of this question. And I go, "Wait a second. You think he's going to beat me? Look at him. He don't even lift the weight." And now they go, "Now we really think he's going to beat you." But no, nowadays I didn't know nothing. Listen, I thought I could murder anyone. Listen, I was ready to roll anything. Gunfight, knife fight. Not looking back on it, I was like, man, I should have practiced a little bit of submission defense, you know what I mean? But no, I didn't. I wasn't intimidated whatsoever.
You went almost 13 minutes with him, which
that's a nice fight. It was a 20-minute fight. It was a nice fight. I don't know if actually I've got hometown decisions too. I got stuck in the ropes. I shouldn't have wore shoes. I shouldn't have taped my hand. We were green. We didn't know, but I'm not war. But he caught me in the ropes. And actually, Joe Silva told me they showed when they were trying to get the Nevada to they showed that fight because Nevada wanted a ring because the cage is so ominous, and they showed that fight. Listen, they should have Miguel, you saw that fight. I was in the ropes. They should have broke it, but that's life. I could have fell out of the ring too. I got a few hometown decisions in my life too, so that's how it goes.
No, that IVC was notorious because like the war. I remember like back in the first one or two when Pele fought Johil de Oliveira. And they're on the mat, and like he's got his eyelid torn off, and there's blood pouring all over. And the ref he just calls for a towel, and he starts cleaning the blood off of the mat. He's not touching the fighters, not breaking them up, anything. He's like doing maintenance on the mat. Like,
he was working. I got maybe I'm a dinosaur. I miss them old days. I like the guy.
Oh, isn't it funny? The old school, like you're talking about, man. You didn't even look into people who you were going to fight. You went there, didn't know the rules. I mean, what kind of a person the hell really would put you in a fight where you didn't even train for it really and fight one of the best guys on the road? In a way, I think Coleman didn't like you. But wasn't he trying to get your head? He's like, fuck this guy. I'm going to get him hurt because,
we thought we could kill anyone down there. We were ready to fight in the bar the night before, the bar the night after. We were ready to go, bro. We were hammer hours.
Well, and the thing I love about it, too, is Battarelli takes him, puts him at 200 pounds, and then puts him in at heavyweight his next fight against Barreto. And that one, I think and then all of a sudden he gets cut, and it's like they stop it on a cut.
No, they remember they were coagulating this cut on the thing. I'll tell you a real quick funny more story about Ebenezer is, so remember they took the contract was 200 pounds. Well, now I'm getting 201, and now listen, I'm a weight cutter, but I'm starting to hurt a little bit. Like, I am starting to, and I finally got on a scale and it's 200 pounds, and they say no, 90 kilos, 90 kilos. And I said, fuck that though. The contract says 200 pounds. I'm like, man, F this. I kicked the door. And Coleman comes in there and he goes, listen, I'm sitting there in the bathroom at the mirror and the sink. And he goes, listen, just cut them extra 2 pounds because when you beat them, they're going to say you didn't make weight and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, Coleman, the contract says I'm bitching. I just look in the mirror and I start fixing my hair. And he goes, oh, you're all right. Let's go. Let's get the 2 pounds. All right, let's go. Fuck it.
Yeah, 90 kilos is 198. Those
198. Yeah, 198. So it was. But then the next fight I fought, and this was a huge show. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was Vale Tudo, Japan, 98. And I won by axe kick KO over Masanori Suda, who was a good fighter that fought Pride, beat Ensign, beat Egan. That was a huge card. That was Ensign versus Couture was the main event. Pendanieros, Rumina Asada, Jean-Jacques Machado fought, Frank Trigg.
Jesus.
Tadashenko. That's a crazy card, man.
Yeah, that's a classic card.
Couture was undefeated. And then the UFC one paid him. He went over there and he headlocked Edson, and Edson armbarred him in like 20 seconds, man. It was crazy. It was like 60,000 people there. I won by axe kick KO. I cut the 187.
That's what I was going to ask you, man. How much weight did you have to cut? Because Suda was basically a middleweight.
That was too much. But can I tell you, back then, I forget what the money was, but it was when they told me the money, I said, because I was like, no, I can't make that. And then Coleman was like trying to negotiate to like 88 kilos. It was 85 kilos, like 187. So Coleman's trying to squeeze a couple kilos, and he's like, back then, listen, we weren't worried about like where it was at. We were at the weight. Like, then he was like, well, how much is it? And I forget like how much they're paying. And we both were like, oh yeah, we're in. I'm sure it wasn't $100,000. It might have been like 10 grand or something. But it was at that time we were like, oh yeah, we're in. We'll make 187.
That's a grueling fight. And then you come back and fight Barreto as a heavyweight. So you went to 200 to 187, and then all the way and just fought 250 pounds.
5 or 6 months. So,
what did you prefer?
Listen, but back then, Chris knows, like you were saying, back then, listen, to fight, it didn't matter if it was a third fight. I know what was going on. I had a good chance to beat. I could have beat Barreto. I had him cut. listen, you took the fights that were offered, a free trip to Brazil and fighting for the world title and Aracaju, Brazil. When will I ever be there again?
Who would say no to that? Who would say no, man? I mean, I remember showing up at fights sometimes. See, you didn't do the low level ones. Like, guys, you'd show up and you didn't even know what they're like, there's somebody here at 170. You're fighting at 185. All right, I train. I'm fighting somebody's ass. I mean, that's just how it works.
Because the only thing that you were worried about was getting there and then not even really the money, just not being able to compete. Like, oh, if the fight fell through, that would be the worst thing than losing for me.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I mean.
I'm there to fucking wrestle, fight, play whatever. I'm ready to compete. You know what I mean? But it's funny you said that because I was matchmaking. And these young kids, and God bless them, they're making some money. It's a different world. But I was trying to do matchmaking. These kids were saying, well, I got you this fight. Well, what does he do? How much does he weigh? What is that? You know what I did? I told him, well, what do you do? Well, you're a wrestler. Well, he's a wrestler. How much do you weigh? 185. He weighs 185. He's 6'1". Hey, listen, he's the exact same as you, man. Just come show up and make weight, bro. You know what I mean?
It ain't like that no more, man.
The dude's trained out of his base. The two dudes are trained out of their base. But I go, just show up. We'll friggin' get your hotel room and fight in the cage. Come on, man. You all right?
It ain't like that no more. People got to be pampered, dude.
Oh God, I can't handle it. I can't do it.
I know.
I'm in the wrestling now. I'm out. I got a couple kids. I got a couple guys in MMA, and other than that, I'm wrestling with the kids. That's it.
So speaking of wrestling, I mean, when you're back when I was there, man, you were allowed to wear wrestling shoes when you fought. You wore wrestling shoes, did you not?
But it's kind of a stupid move, but really, it depends on who you were fighting, really, because if you were fighting obviously my goal was to take people down or push them against the cage or ring and, dirty box. But, if you were fighting a guy that really didn't heel hook, it would kind of help you, man. Like, I mean, you got to watch, you don't want to do that with a heel hooker. Or but if you're fighting somebody that's not going to roll on your ankles or something, listen, it gave you some. It looks funny now, but it gave you some traction. You know what I mean? Really did.
Yeah.
Did you use shoes against Suda?
No, you couldn't do it. Japan never let you wear shoes.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
No,
so your axe kicked him with bare. That's fucking.
Actually, with bare feet. Actually, with bare feet. Yeah, I wore shoes in Ebenezer. I think I wore shoes when I fought a couple, like 4 or 5 times. I'm still my age now.
And I was gonna ask you with Barreto, that whole fight card also featured like Vanderlei Silva and like that team. Talk about meeting those guys back then.
Well, the first time I met Vanderlei, Vanderlei fought Mike Van Arsdale, and I put on a hell of a show, and all the Brazilians loved it, and then that's when Coleman saw Vanderlei, and they were greasing up in the background, in the backstage, like they just had them things, and Coleman's like, "What the fuck, man?" No, he's like, fight man," and Coleman's like, "There's rules," and then like Coleman made him wipe them down and stuff. So, but we didn't care because really, after it was over, it was a fight. There was no rules. Who cares? A little grease, the fuck, like we weren't even that worried about it. So it was cool. They were real cool. Actually, Vanderlei fought Adrian Serrano, and then Francisco Bueno fought Jason Gotzi. Man, they blew him out of the water, dude. Coleman came in and was like, "These Americans are getting blown out. Let's go." We're like pushing each other backstage 5 minute before a 30-minute title fight, like almost fighting each other.
Yeah, I was out there. I was out there alone with Henry. Henry was fighting Rafael Cordero, Matamoros.
He gave him a good fight, though. He showed up.
Yeah, they fought 30 minutes, and, Henry walked out there with his face out to here. But Henry, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, so he wanted him in his guard and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was me and Adrian in the corner, and Adrian and me were kind of quiet, and Coleman came out. He's like, "All right."
Coleman was listen, God, they were outgunned, dude. There was nothing they could do. Coleman, I'm not saying nothing bad about them. They were outgunned that night. That happens. They showed guts for them to show up to that. You know what I mean? But I got a quick story about you, Miguel.
Oh shit!
So after my first fight, no, good story. I got a couple of stories. I always tell these stories. After we first went to Brazil, and Coleman's not fighting. He's ready to party. He's ready to go out. So, but I wasn't going to drink, but I'm ready to go out and see the nightlife too. You know what I mean? And you were there, and Coleman's like, "Let's go." And you're like, "I just got in." Coleman's like, we need a translator. And you're like, I don't speak Portuguese. And Coleman said, close enough. And he had no idea because he just wanted you to go, but it really was close enough. Remember, you you could translate a little bit.
Well, yeah, I wound up speaking Spanish to these cab drivers, giving them directions to our hotel, bringing friends over and stuff like that.
Friends.
Yeah. I wound up having to do. Yeah, it's hard to tell Coleman no.
Then you remember this? This is my favorite story about you, Miguel. We're getting ready to leave. We're all getting ready to leave off that Guarulhos airport, fly out. And I just go like this, and I was like, all right, cool. And like, I mean, we knew you, but you weren't like, you were with Henry, like you were cool with you, like, and you weren't even like, me and Coleman walked up there. I was like, all right, Coleman, I'm staying, buddy. I'll see you. And he goes, all right, Hank, man, I'll see you. And he just gives me a hug, and you went right into demo, and you go, whoa, wait a second. What do you mean? And then Coleman was like, oh yeah. And then Coleman like feigned, like he was like, oh wait, you're staying? And you're like, wait. I was like, I'm good, thanks, Miguel. You gave me a little love too. I remember that. That was cool.
How long extra did you stay for?
A while. I'm with it was with my wife. My wife is with me now. That was her. That I stayed down there. We were together for a decade, then distance kept us away, and then we reconnected. We're married now. So I stayed there for a while.
Nice.
Probably two. Listen, until all the money I made in that fight was gone. I know that. I come back with pennies in my pocket.
That's a nice story though about the girl too, because I mean, you just had a baby with her and stuff. And
it turned out to be a nice story. It got rocky there for a while, and it's good now.
That's
cool.
Good.
Cool.
So you actually got flown out to King of the Cage one time because they were supposed to be having you versus Vernon Tiger White.
Remember that Vernon and Tiger White when you know that story. That's why you're asking. You're leading into that.
What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't care. It's all meant. Listen, so David, they were bringing me in. Vernon Tiger White was the 205. That would have been a good fight, me and Vernon. I think I would have won wrestling. But Vernon was tough, man. Vernon was a tough dude. He was in shape, and his wrestling wasn't that great, but he could strike. But they brought in David Dodd. You remember David Dodd, Miguel?
Yeah.
They brought in him, and obviously Vernon was a pretty good, favorite. And then he was going to beat David and me, and I was going to come in there and challenge him and stuff. And Dodd gave him all he could handle. Listen, they were sweating. He ended up beating him, but Dodd was, the first couple rounds he was on his legs, rolling on. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was the guys were nervous. And then they brought me in, and it was at the Soaring Eagle Casino. It was me, Wes, and Coleman, and we thought we're going to we don't know. There's casinos in the middle of the Great White North up there. We think we're going somewhere and we're ready to party. We're going to go out and stuff. And they got us in this casino, and I don't know if you know where it's at. There's nothing for 100 miles either way, not even a convenience store. And they got us in there, and we were just out of control in that place. And listen, that's what Wes says. They go, man, they never even called us back. They never even asked us back. They said, fuck them dudes. They're out. I go, they should have warned us that we're in the middle of a freaking the Great Right Thunder. The Ham House was too much for that place. It wasn't big enough. And we were listen, and we weren't even that bad. It was just
the mild version.
Yeah, everything's closing down at 10:30. We ain't ready. We ain't laying it down at 10:30, Chris.
No.
So that was a good story.
Yeah,
Mike Davis was in my corner. Listen, my little comeback. That was proud at the time. That was a big win for me. Looking back, Zentsov got beat a few times, but he was coming off. Mike was on my corner at Bodog, and I think you got me that fight, Miguel. Thank you. That was a nice little payday and a nice little upset for me. But Zentsov was coming off 2 30-second KOs. He knocked out Pedro Hikle and Gilbert of Vale and Pride. And then
Zentsov's no joke.
I was like, listen, because my buddy, that was when they first were starting to put lines on MMA. They never did before. And Bodog put a line on it. And there's this guy that I always see, and I never remember his name, and he put $1,000 on me. He won I think I was 8-1 or 9. I was
nice.
I was way underdog. And that was a nice little win for me. I think you taped my hands.
Dude, I taped your hands, and the most important thing is I took your mouthpiece out in between rounds because you needed air.
I remember Coleman's in my face going like this. I remember you went and took my mouthpiece out and like took my shorts and like pulled them out so I could like breathe a little bit. I was like, man, thanks, Mike. I mean, Coleman's like in my face, fighting with the guys in the front row. It was awesome, though.
I'm doing breathe through your nose, breathe through your nose. And Coleman's like, shut the fuck up. You need to do that.
I want to hear some Coleman instructions like just fucking pound his face and you big pussy. You're an embarrassment to the wrestling community. Is that what it was like? Was it
to the Hammer House? To the Hammer House. Yeah.
So did you actually have an apartment with Sims and Scott Shipman?
Yeah, me, Scott, and Shepard. We live right down the street from Coleman. That was an interesting time. I tell you this, because me and Shipman were main training partners. Shipman was a national champion in West Liberty, and let me tell you, Shipman was a heck of a fighter too. He was 8-1. Chael way out. I forget in like Minnesota, and he was giving it to Chael, and Chael caught him in a Shipman got him a double leg and picked him up, and Chael caught him in a guillotine, Shipman picked him up and Chael caught him in a guillotine and choked him out from from the air. And then, but he was 8-1. He was a tough dude. And then so we were buddies. And then Wes I didn't know Wes. And Wes comes in and Coleman's like, I'm gonna put this guy in with you. He didn't really wrestle. I think he wants to be a pro wrestler. And right away, like I'm like, oh, I'm not living with this dude. Like he's like, you know, and I'm like, oh, and he's like saying stuff and like, listen. The first couple of days, like Wes was young, man. He might not even old enough to even drink.
He was green. He was super green.
He was 6'8", 210.
From a farm.
So I'm not happy. So I'm like, I'm already probably 28, 29. I'm trying to teach this martial arts class, blah, blah, blah. And listen, the first few days, like, so I'm starting to say stuff, and Wes is just going like this, and I was like, man, you got a good sense of humor. I like you, kid. You stick with me, man. And listen, after a couple of weeks, it was me and Wes. We were rolling all over.
Now, Mike's going to ask you some stories about.
Wait. So what about your other roommate, Jasmine?
Oh, God, I don't want to go into that. That's Shipman. That's Shipman's deal.
Okay.
Hey, that don't got nothing to do with me. I only speak on stuff that can do with me. That's it.
All right. So when you fought Maurice Smith, what was your camp like going up into that time? Because it was almost like a Hammer House revenge match because he had already beaten Coleman at that point.
Yeah, but can I tell you, that was were funny rules. I don't know if you remember, it was rings. Like 3 of them losses in my career, I was green and there was no punching on the ground. Like, and really, can I tell you, like, like Chris says, we went in there. We were not really sure of the rules, but it was like a nice payday. It was a tournament, and it was like 2 5-minute rounds. And I think I took him down like 6 or 7 times, but like I couldn't punch on the ground, so I was trying to do this stuff. I was working with Obaki. Remember the guy Tim Katoff? I was working like smothers and cervical blocks and chokes with him, and I was doing that stuff. And then he would reverse me, which I wouldn't care because I was still on the ground. Like I didn't really want to be on the feet with them. But I thought, listen, I tell you one thing. If you go back and look at that fight, I won that fight. And listen, and even they called it like the way they called it should have been a majority draw. And it was 2 people called a draw, 1 people called a thing. So it should have been a majority draw, and it should have been another 5-minute overtime. But they wanted Henzo. Henzo was in the next round, and they of course wanted Maurice to fight Henzo. But can I tell you? Listen, I was ready to go like 5 minutes after. Maurice was like could barely walk out to the ring for the second fight. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot by giving him that decision because he had nothing after. And I like Maurice. Maurice is awesome. Like he landed 1 leg kick, and that was but that was funny because Coleman, remember, you guys weren't at this one. That was a huge fight. That was King of the Ring, King of Kings. That was huge. Everyone and their brother was fighting that. And after they said the decision, they said, draw, and Maurice Smith, which is really should be that's a majority draw, so you go to another 5 minutes. But they just said he won. And I said, whatever, dude. I just walked out, and Coleman, just stood there in the ring for 10 minutes, just walked around and gave everyone the evil eye. And no one did a thing. Everyone just sat there and tried not to make eye contact until he wandered out of the ring. Everyone was just kind of like a mean dog, just looking down on the ground and stuff.
Just waiting to pounce on somebody, huh?
Yeah, listen, that's one of the fights that could but who knows? I was green too. Henzo would probably spit at me, but listen, I had 1,000 times more than Maurice did going out because he could barely walk out to that fight. But he was probably in his late 30s too at the time, so you know.
Yeah.
So when Mark Coleman entered into the UFC Hall of Fame, I saw Wes there, but I didn't see you in the audience.
You know that story? Do you know that story? Can I tell
I
this
have no
story?
idea. No. What happened?
So we were at they had that Ray Mendoza thing the night before. So I haven't seen Randleman in years, and me and Randleman pick up right where he left off, and I had a couple buddies there, and his son was there, and we're out and about. Then we're at this club, and then he had a fight coming up. My dad had gotten sick. My dad was getting sick. He had like a form of dementia and stuff. I really couldn't go anywhere, and so Randleman was like, "You need to come out to Vegas. I got to fight. I'm going to pay you this." And he would have, he would have been overly generous. And I was, instead of just saying, we're having drinks, instead of just saying, yeah, for sure. And then, the next day, I'll just say, no, whatever. I just was like, no, I can't go. And, he was getting, and like things went to another. So we were kind of like, like, fuck you, I know how it goes to your buddies and stuff like that. So then finally, like, we whatever happens. And the next morning, I'm like, dude, I ain't going to that fucking, listen, if Coleman ain't fighting, plus there was like a lack of tickets and stuff. So I was like, give my ticket to somebody. And the funniest story about this is, so everyone's sitting there and Coleman's not worried about it. Like, he's got his family there, and Coleman goes, somebody called, I think it was Wes maybe. And Wes comes up and he goes, I don't think Hank and Randleman are going to make it to the show. And he goes, why not? He goes, they were fighting in the streets at 5 a.m. last night. And Coleman goes, who are they fighting? He goes, each other. And Coleman goes, that sounds about right. Sounds about right. No, we might not have been the best to do it, but no one did it like us for sure. No one did it like us.
So you had a fist fight with Randleman outside the place.
We fought all comers. We didn't care. We weren't worried about that. Never, ever. You know what I mean? Try to kill each other in training every day, and then buddies right after, right home.
Hey man, you got to respect the Hammer House for nothing else than that. I mean, fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, and having fun while doing it. There's a way you can do it, and going out and partying. Like we have rules with ours, like night before fights, like the cornermen all got to go out and get wasted. I mean, that's just how we've done things with integrated fighting. But you guys took it to another level, and maybe it's a Midwest thing. Maybe it's you guys were in Ohio, we're in Indiana, white bikes. I don't know. Most people don't do that shit. Most of the camp like, what do you do?
That Midwest way of doing things, blue collar tie. Yeah. Listen, can I tell you? You're like me. If I wouldn't have done this, I might have been overseas on a vacation or something. Listen, I got to go all over the world, dude. I've been to freaking, I can't even remember how many countries I've been to. So many, So I feel fortunate for that. But I also put the work in to do it. I also put my ass in the line. It was worth it, man. I'm a little dinged up, but I'm still, I'm all right. I'm still walking upright.
Yep. Now, I got a question. I got one for you. You, when you were getting ready to fight, was it that Rich Gannon, the guy who beat Kimbo Slice or whatever? You just mollywopped him. Did you feel like a little disrespected in a way because they're giving this internet guy a chance to fight you? I mean, you felt like, it looked like you took it personally, like, fuck this guy. I mean, what was your thought process going on?
I just felt like, to me, it wasn't even about him. To me, it was like, and can I tell you that the problem with that is, listen, these kids don't understand. Like, I was working as a bodyguard in a casino. Like, it wasn't like, I wasn't having a full-time training camp, and I probably was like, I wasn't in the best shape there, but I didn't really feel it's like, I had nothing about the internet. I didn't give a shit about it. I just thought it was time for the UFC to call me because, listen, I should have been in there already. Like that's the only disrespect I felt. But, I just wanted to pound him out, and it was kind of, can I tell you, it wasn't, and he's a tough guy, don't get me wrong, but he's not in the top 50% of the people I fought. Like, you feel me? Like, and no disrespect to him because I fought top level guys my whole life, but he wasn't, he was a big, tough dude, and that's about it.
They brought you in as a B-side, though. That's for sure.
No, for sure. No, it's all right. It's all right.
But like you're saying, man, you fought nothing but the cream of the crop. A lot of the old school guys are like that. You look on the resume, it's just like, damn, he fought him. There wasn't busted. Like, cupcake fights. You fought everybody on your resume is really good. You know what I mean? Like first one,
my first fight, I didn't have no amateur fights. My first fight was, and at the time, and there was a little bit of work. I mean, Ebenezer was 4 or 5 in the world at 200 kilos, and I didn't care. I would have fought. Listen, they called me, and I literally said, Coleman said, hey, they want you. It's not going to be a tournament. They want you to fight this guy, and I go, well, how much is the plane ticket down there going to be? And he said, no, they're going to pay for you and me. And I was like, you didn't have to tell me anything else. I go, oh, I'm in. I'm in.
I love it.
Now, you also fought in the WEF, which had some crazy talent on some of those cards. It was always loaded.
That was Jamie Levine.
What was your dealings with Jamie Levine?
Can I tell you, and listen, rest in peace. Listen, Jamie always did me right, but I knew Jamie's. I coached and wrestled with a kid who, Jamie grew up in Western PA, and I coached and wrestled with a kid, Wes Watson, whose uncle grew up and was like best friends with Jamie Levine. So listen, can I tell you that? Listen, he was a promoter. He did a lot of things, but when he said, I tell you one thing, because the one time I was supposed to fight George Allen, he was like, and they were saying West Virginia's not going to allow it, blah blah blah, and 2 weeks out, he said, fight's on. And whenever he said there was going to be a fight, I made sure, I didn't say, oh, that fight's not going to happen. I made sure my ass was in shape because the fight fucking happened, dude. You know what I mean? You put them on. And listen, that show that you guys, Miguel, out there in, what was that? Evansville? Yeah. Evansville. It was a hell of a show. I fought Yoshihisa Yamamoto. Severin fought on that card. Did Pele fight Dave Monet?
Yep.
Dean Thomas.
Yes.
Dean Thomas, the Iron Bear, Gary Myers was on that show. Listen, it was a crazy show. He spent a lot of money to get them guys there. The people don't realize at that time, like, you know, when the UFC was in its infancy, no one wanted. That wasn't where we wanted to be at. Like, you know, they weren't having they didn't have the best talent. Like maybe the main event or something. Like you wanted to go overseas and stuff. Like, cause they were having them, not saying anything like you would turn it down, but like they were having fights in Mobile, Alabama, and like, but now it's, it's the only, now it's like almost a monopoly. It's where the way to be,
Yeah, I was a judge for that whole Evansville show that you're talking about for Levine.
What kind of audience was there for that?
Not a lot.
That was a good show.
No. See, the problem with the audience in Evansville is that we had Hook and Shoot there, right? So there was already kind of a brand, and to be honest with you, Jamie kind of tried to play big promoter coming into town, sort of didn't ask, there are ways of doing it that are kind of pro wrestling ways.
He's a bull in a China shop. He should have smoothed some people over. Yeah. For sure. I know what you mean.
So it's like what he did. He got me from Hook and Shoot as a judge, obviously, but he never asked. At the end of the day, his money guy, Dan, was like handing out tickets and cash for people to run the bars and give them out and stuff to get people to that fight. But Jamie was on the radio talking about how people were going to need to get, like he had all the fighters. He said this in a radio interview, and for the time, it's just so wrong, He's like, he had all the fighters go and pick out a coffin just in case they die.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, my God. That's right. I remember that was big news.
Yeah, so, stuff like that made it kind of like, and in Evansville, Hook and Shoot ran in the Coliseum, which was a 4,000 seat, basically war memorial, you know what I mean? And he went to like the 10,000 seat, bigger arena, bigger concert hall there, more modern and stuff like that. So, whereas we paid $500 or $600 for the building, I think he was definitely deep into the 4 figures. So, it didn't work out.
I can't remember. There wasn't a good crowd then, was there? Or was there? I can't remember that.
It was papered by Dan. Dan got a lot of people out there, but they probably got about 4,000 in the building of 10. So it kind of,
Well, there's probably 25% were comps, is what you're saying, bro.
Yeah, there were more than that. But
cool.
Tell Jamie Levine's story. Come on, you gotta see them do something bad to somebody if it wasn't you.
You know what? I can't even remember. I'm kind of drawing a blank. I know that you'd have to watch. Oh, wait, I'll tell you Jamie Levine's story. So he's fighting, this is when I fought Tommy Trauma, and that was a WF too. That was in, at the Cox Pavilion. That was a good show too. That was,
he was a tough guy.
Yeah, Tommy Trauma. He, rest in peace. He passed away. Did you know that?
Yes. Tom Sauer.
He monster. He beat Ensign. He was tough. He was actually, we were good friends. So, but, so I went out there and, so this is, this is going to be a big show and we kind of know it's going to happen. So we're 8-10 weeks out and he says, listen, send me this picture. And the fight was I think it was a catchweight fight. It was like, because they were having a heavyweight belt and then a super heavyweight belt. So let's say 220, 225. I can't remember exactly. And so, but I'm walking around, I'm training, but I'm walking around 250. I'm 8 weeks, 10 out probably. I ain't just starting training camp. He just called me and signed the contract. And he says, go and get these pictures taken and blah, 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 this way, whatever. And I was like, so my buddy takes them. He's got a Charlie shop. And I just shaved down. I'm 250. I'm not looking my best, dude. Like, I don't got no haircut. And I go, hey, should I tell my buddy to chop it off of the chest? Like, because I was just had a belly. He's like, no, my guy will do all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Listen, 3 weeks later, and he was fighting on the card. Remember, he fought on a couple of
he was his own champion. Yeah, he was his own champion.
And he fought on the card. And he sent me this. That was the only time, because really, he never did me wrong with money. I mean, a couple times I had to chase him around to get it, but he never owed me. He always told me, no, whatever. And he sent me this poster. I was irate. He didn't put nothing on me. Like, and I had like sweatpants on. He didn't put like sweat. He didn't even cut my sweatpants off. Like, he puts like me from like the crotch up. I'm looking fat with like sweatpants and like boxer shorts on. And he's got a picture of him and he looks peeled. Well, I think that he's that peeled. Like, I mean, he looks peeled. Like, and I'm like, and I like, hey, I go, hey, asshole. I thought you were going to cut me off and give me a little, give me, just at least cut, so don't look like I have like old sweatpants and boxer shorts on. What the fuck? And I get there, and now, dude, I'm ready to go against Tommy Trauma. It was a good fight. I ended up winning, but I'm 220, I'm in shape, and I'm fucking peeled, dude. I'm ready to roll. And I get there, and he's lean, but he's 40, and he's like flabby, and he had that whole thing photoshopped. And I go, not only did you can't cut my sweatpants off, you photoshopped your whole fucking picture. What the fuck? But other than that, listen, a couple times I had to chase him for money, but I don't like to talk ill of the dead. It is what it is. He never really did anything to me. Every time he said there was a fight, and listen, I don't think I ever lost when I fought for him. I fought for him like 4 or 5 times. Fought George Allen, Yoichi Yamamoto, Tom Sauer, and somebody else. I think I won every one. I think I won every one.
The talent on that guy's cards was pretty sick, man.
How much did he pay you, Sue? Yeah. I wanted to ask you about what were you getting.
I think the most I got paid was against. Listen, at that WF show with at Evansville. I think people were getting paid more than like that was even the UFC. Like I forget. I think I ended up winning like $8,000 to win. But then when I fought in Vegas, it was like 2-2, which was like, then it wasn't, that was really what you were getting paid, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like it was like people were getting $10,000,
Yeah. Levine was kind of famous for like, if you got paid your $7,000, that's cool. But cause he would clear $7,000 from like the money people. And then somehow a zero would get lost, and 700.
Oh no! Listen, I know a lot of people who didn't get paid, but I don't know if it's because listen, I never played with him, and I knew exactly where he's at. I knew his buddies. I knew where he lived. Like I don't know if it was that or he just because we had a person to come. But listen, don't get me wrong. I had to chase him down a couple times. I had to threaten his life a few times. But listen, we're clear on the books now, man. You know what I mean? So
that's cool. That's funny though. So now let's go through this. What was your favorite performance? The one that you show your grandkids?
I don't know. I think that maybe My favorite performance is, I don't know, maybe the Suda fight, maybe the Tommy Trauma fight. That was a good fight. He kicked me in the face. I was in big trouble, and I came back and won. You know, it's funny because, you know, some of my, like, even that Jorge Rivera fight, that might be my favorite performance. But, like, these kids don't understand. There's not a good copy of that. So, like, to show my grandkids, I want, like, announcers on stuff. Probably Jorge would be the one I want to show my grandkids. But it's, like, from on top of the cage and through the cage. So, it's maybe I don't want to show them that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And plus, you're going to have to find a VHS recorder to show it on, which they don't even exist
Yeah,
anymore.
I got
a bunch of VHS tapes. I'm like, what do I do with these?
You know? But then I got a chance. I went, you know, the one time I went to Korea, and that was interesting, and fought in a 16-man tournament there, and it was
one night.
Man, went to a lot of things. Did a lot of things, man. Met some good people like you guys, you know. And you know, when you go through stuff like that, it's like, you know, you become like lifelong friends. You know what I mean? I got that something in common that the general public doesn't even listen. Not only the general public, even the MMA community today, they can't even fathom that. They can't even. They. If you weren't there, you can't imagine how it was. You know what I mean?
Brandon, I bring that up a lot. I talk about how, you know, it's a different world now. And part of the thing that I kind of like about doing the new bare knuckle stuff, I do commentary for them, it reminds me of the old UFC. I remember you'd have a UFC fight and you'd go to the after fight party, might be in somebody's hotel room. You'd have like Randy Couture here and Chuck Liddell over there, and, you know, and then there's people hanging out in the room, and they're like, now everybody's got their own after fight party at a club. It was just a different, it was fun. It was intimate.
It was a lot more, exactly. I remember
real
people parties where it was Coleman, me, Dan Henderson, friggin' the Brazilians, everyone's Listen, one more story, then I'm gonna have to go because I'm keeping my son up. But another good story is, so after I cut all that weight in, you guys weren't at this one, Vale, Japan. You know, it was Randy was there and Frank Trigg was there and Rico and all them were there. And, you know, I was friends with them. Coleman was tired. He wasn't going out. And I got I had this translator, this dude, he was probably like, I don't know, my age. I was 20s. And me and all the Brazilians, I said, listen, he was a young kid. And I was like, come on, man, you're going to come with us. And we go out. And so Ensign says, we're having this party in this neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. So me and all the Brazilians. And listen, you know, I was back then, they were giving us like $100 a day per diem. I wasn't spending any of that. Like I was trying, you know, nowadays I go, you know, 10 years, fast forward 10 years later, I'm coming home with $0. Then I was a young kid. It was like gold to me, you know. And so, and the Brazilians were like that too. And so we went, and so we're all riding on the subway and I'm saying, I'm finding Ensign's party because we're going to drink for free. You know, it's going to be fun. And so me and the Brazilians, it was Jacques Roque. Remember Jacques Roque? Andre Pendieiras? Oh, shit. There was a couple other I can't even remember. I don't think the Machados were there, but it was a couple, you know, in a couple of their cornermen. And we get off the thing. I was like, all right. And Randy was like, calls me over like a dad style. He goes, listen, this is a city of 10 million people. You're not going to find that party. Just come with us, man. We're going to go to this bar, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, thanks, Randy. I'm gonna find this party. And so we're walking around. We're not gonna find this party, dude. Like we're in Tokyo. Like, what do you think it's all like Jefferson High? We're walking around and find it. So then, you know, so now me and the Brazilians, we're all bummed out, but we see a McDonald's and we're all cut weight. I go, perfect. Let's just go stuff our face around this huge 3-story McDonald's. And from across the street, I see somebody with an Ensign Underway shirt on. And I go, Jacques, go. Jacques Roque sprints out there, grabs them. Next thing you know, they're sending like this, like the Yakuza car for us, and they take us up to Ensign's got this sweet party, like, you know, but it's already like 3 a.m. Like we already went, like, but it was that was a pretty cool story. Like we saw that. I said, you know, and then like these guys are barely talking any English. I'm barely talking any Portuguese, but he knew exactly what I said. I go, come and set the T-shirt, go, Vi, go, you know. That dude goes, oh, you know, and Ensign was so happy to see us. It was cool, man. It was cool, guys.
That is funny. Yeah, Tokyo's a big city to just run into a party there, you know?
Yeah, Randy's like, listen, bro. You ain't gonna, I'm like, dude, me and these Brazilians, we got it. We're gonna walk around until we fight, dude.
You can't even talk to each other. We're gonna figure this out.
We can't even conversate.
So real quick, Brandon, we know you got to go. We usually play a game, asshole or not an asshole. We throw names at you. So,
and you tell
Miguel,
us
you want to
an
kick
asshole now. All right, so we'll go with some of the easy ones first, maybe. Jamie Levine, asshole or non-asshole?
No, not an asshole. I ain't speaking.
Mark Kerr.
Not an asshole.
Frank Shamrock.
I have no dealings with Frank. Never.
Okay, not even when he.
I trained with Ken before. Ken's not an asshole. Ken's cool. No dealings with Frank.
Frank wasn't with Mo when you fought Mo?
No.
Okay.
What about Phil Baroni?
That's cool.
No, Baroni's my boy. What?
Wanderlei Silva.
What was that?
Vanderlei Silva.
No, he's cool. He's cool with me.
How about Barreto?
No, Barreto's my boy. I speak to him a lot down there. Brett.
It's really funny because I've noticed it as a person who didn't compete, and I know everybody else here has competed too and stuff like that. But the old school guys have a camaraderie that you just can't. You just can't. That's the kind of
Josh Barnett.
Intangible, you know.
I'm not a huge fan, but I can't call him an asshole, but I don't have too many. Listen, the only time I dealt with him is when he was real young, so that's it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Rico Rodriguez.
I don't know. He's all right with me too.
I tried. Hey, Miguel, I'm out.
He's good. He's good. It's just that's what happens. And Brandon's a cool guy, so you get, like I said, that camaraderie and respect. You don't get it in too many other sports, right? So
no,
that's pretty cool.
I'm too old. I'm too old to hold grudges.
Plus, like Brandon said, like it's just there's something about being in there and fighting with those guys. Even if you fought them, it's just, like you said. There takes a certain level of respect just to be involved with the sport. So I think you enjoy people like that. So there's a good
Vale, especially back then, doing the Vale, man, that was like nowadays it's really sport. Back then it was a fight. It was the closest thing to blood sport there was. It was the closest thing to realest fighting ever, probably. You know what I mean?
Headbutts and kicks.
Did you ever roll with Mark Kerr?
No, we never went live. We never went live.
In a fight between him and Coleman, what's your prediction?
Coleman, come on. No, and I know personally, Kerr's an awesome guy, but that's Coleman's too mean for him, and Kerr had maybe at the time had a little bit of advantage in striking, but it wouldn't have mattered. Coleman was too much for him.
Coleman's in his head.
What's that?
I said Coleman always says Coleman was in his head, and I think he's right.
Yeah, Coleman beat him in wrestling. He was older than him. Like they trained together. Like, of course, anything can happen, but to me, Coleman be a. To me, a 2, 3, 4 to 1 favorite. But anything can happen. You know how that.
All right, bro. Let me ask you a question.
I want to give a shout out to Nirmon's Diamante Bruto, Progetto Social. Original das Ruas. My buddies, I work at this Project Social down there, and they're going through some tough times down there, in the favelas down there in Brazil and stuff, but they're great kids, and, I'm thinking about them down there. So.
Did you work in the favelas?
I did. I coached wrestling. It was called Diamante Bruto, and it's a Progetto Social. It's like it's like a boys and girls club almost. And I taught the wrestling to kids, and I got fell in love with the guys, and they're
how hard is it?
And my buddy came and by. They're trying. They don't got a whole lot of anything, but they got a whole lot of heart, and that matters a lot to me.
So how is it down there, like for those kids, like in like how your interaction with them?
No, it's awesome. I mean, it's not an easy, it's a dangerous place, and not just a crime, because maybe in the fellas, the outsiders are more prone to crime. But like my wife said, I didn't realize at the time, like if it rains hard, it could they could wash out. A fire could kill a lot of people. It's just a dangerous place. But these kids are making the best of it. And it's not like they're like going once a week and training, dude. They're at that freaking gym. Listen, listen. I was there one night a week, and they're doing every night. And listen, my practice. I'm running, especially if I take an hour subway ride to get there. I'm running a 3-hour practice. You know what I mean? Hey, pack a lunch. We're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Hey, last question. How long before the little lion's on the wrestling mats?
He's already ready to go. Don't tell my wife. She's like, we're not gonna make him wrestle. And I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Wait. One more. Is it true you actually played tennis in college?
Yeah, you didn't know that? Actually,
Come on, bro.
I got back on the court. Listen, I tell you the story. I was wrestling Steve. I don't know if you know listen, for you wrestling fans, I was wrestling Steve St. John when I was like 12 years old. And I lost him in overtime. He's a famous guy. He wrestled all, and I broke my hand. And in my house, you either played 3 sports. I broke my left hand, so I couldn't put my baseball mitt on there. And in my house, you either played 3 sports or you got a job. And I was not getting a job, I didn't care what it was, even if it was like 2 hours a week. And so it was a junior high tennis team, and there was 30 people out for it, 25 girls. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to play tennis. And listen, it was such I ended up falling in love with it. It was such a breath of fresh air coming from freezing cold in the wrestling room. I wrestled since I was 3 years old, dude. Hundreds of matches a year. And then, coming out of that wrestling room and going into the nice court where you're not even touching anyone. It's a whole different, I could say class of people, different class, and I fell in love with it. And I ended up like all summer, I broke every window in our house. I hit off the back, and I ended up going to college on a tennis scholarship.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You had to be the only guy who was on the wrestling team and tennis team. There was no crossover besides that.
I don't know. Maybe somebody can fact check this. I guarantee, maybe in the history of the world, I'm the most prolific wrestler, tennis player ever. I was listening for a while there because I quit wrestling. I went there on West-Liv on a tennis scholarship, and I was so tired of the wrestling that my money was for tennis, and I quit wrestling for the first year. And I was, I'm a good athlete, and so that means I got out of the weight room, and I was playing some high-level tennis for a while there. I mean, now I'm a goon, but I can still play a little bit.
You're a pretty big guy. I see you as more as a double player, not having to move so much.
I played a little at the club down there, like in Brazil, and here, even the way I'm playing now, everyone like flips out about it. But down there in Brazil, tennis is South America. Everyone could play a little bit of tennis. They weren't that impressed.
Oh, that's really fun.
Playing that good. No, they weren't that impressed.
All right, bro. Definitely great catching up with you, man. Thank you very much for the time. And I'll send you links and stuff, and I'm going to ask your help getting Baroni on here.
All right, cool. No, Baroni, I'll talk to him. Sounds good.
All right, bro.
Yeah, my man. Mike, you guys take care, all right?
Thank you, brother.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.